Okay, we're going to jump right in. So for today's quick practice, we're just going to do super simple hand, maybe 12th scale. So I'm going to do similar to what I did before with the other clays, but of course we're just going to use what we have here. Now, tool-wise, I should have got my tool out first. Just going to be using... Try to use just two simple tools. So one metal, one wood. So this is the same procedure I do. I've done this a bunch of times, so I've got some practice at it. But by all means, I don't think you can have too much practice at this. It's a good study. There's so much to do. So again, this is pulling the mitten out. So like a hand in a mitten, pulling the thumb over. So usually a really good habit, making some kind of wrist like that with a pinch. Palms a bit thicker. Fingers a bit skinnier than you think because they're going to get a little bit thicker once you start cutting them up. And just trust me on that. So if you're doing a very simplistic hand like the ones I did on the terracotta doll exercise, this was basically just like this but a little smaller, and you just pressed fingers and then you press the tops, and you could do a simple pose, and that was it for the hand, right? Super simple. So let's kick this up a notch. One thing I like to do is mark out a little bit of the major palm lines. Cut the fingers apart, so you can do it with a blunt tool like this too. But just marking them, what you don't want to do is put too much on the middle finger, or you can always just peel it away. I'll use this one tool. Let me see if I can just do it with this one so that we don't have it get too complicated. But see, pressing it out, you just have to be aware that the overall thickness of each of those little tubes that you've just created are not too messy. I usually like to do it on the table. Then you do a little cut, get it cleanly cut apart. Now it's just about getting each of these fingers a little round, so I'm just lightly squeezing each one. Squeezing these hard points. Super simple. The trickiest bit is just to separate them here so that you have room to grab each one. So usually I do the hand splayed out like that. I'll pinch the tips of the fingers like that, curve them up. And then of course you have this slope between the front and back of the hand. Just look at your own hand. This webbing is further forward. There's a slope between there and there. So you start to think about all of these multiple layers of dimension that are there, and then they just become little aspects in your mind that you remember. And this is again a good, always good for modeling, for drawing, any kind of field where you have to be aware of the shapes in 3D space. This kind of practice is always good for that. The more you think through the shape and feel through it, at least it depends on if you're a tactile learner, I guess. But for, let's say just for many people, I can't say everybody because I don't know. But let's say that is that. You could do one more digit for the thumb. Technically there's two there. And so I'm letting it sort of just feel its way out. If there's too much here, you can see that the ring finger is too much. You just clip it off. So I like to make sure they are the right volume and length before I start any kind of detail. Let's see, we're already about 5 minutes, so this is a 10-minute hand. We'll see how far we can take it detail-wise. I don't usually go too far when it's really small, but you can see if you've got some practice at it, it will not take too long, and you can get quite a bit going push a little bit in between there. Sometimes I exaggerate a little bit first, and then I know it's going to get smoothed out. That feels too big on the pinky, so I'm going to clip that off again. And that kind of always happens. And if you're being super technical about it, if you look at the slope of where the fingers start, the pinky is lower. It's not just a shorter finger, it starts lower. If you bend your fingers out like that, you see the lengths change relative to where they start. So technically this is lower if you're looking at it flat like this. So starting to notice little details like that is really what gets you on the road to success for more and more realism and accuracy. Okay, so that's pretty much the palm. So then the backs, again, I like to use my fingers, but when it gets this super small, it's a little tricky. But I usually like to do a little pinch and push for each knuckle. But if you're having trouble getting that pinch in there, you may just have to go to a tool. So I usually press between each knuckle, a little bit on the fingernail. It's tricky to get them. They sometimes shrink in. Doing a little bit of a bend to it helps you as well. So if you want to get that finger more realistic and bent, you know, just watch the fine line between making a knuckle and making it look super, you know, aged, I should just say. Like there's things you can do, obviously, if you want really bony knuckles or not. It's a very specific character choice, but see, just a little hint at it like that is a lot. You can of course roll over with your tool, make little knuckles. I'm going to do a tiny little fingernail, super quick and easy fingernails, just two sides and maybe a little bit on the back there. And then even on this size, if I just press the tiniest little bit in the front, I've got a couple presses and I've got a pretty good hint at a fingernail. So yeah, that's about it. So 7 minutes. Let me see if I can just finish off this hand in the 10, which is a pretty good benchmark. I've done this demo quite a few times, and I still get something out of it each time. It feels like I'm learning a little bit, getting a little better. I still like doing it. Tricky when it's this small. I usually do the demo maybe a quarter scale. But when you start doing figures, you want to do anything at a smaller scale, obviously you have to practice. So I definitely recommend doing this as a reasonable size if it's your first time, and then if you really want to challenge yourself, just keep making the hand again half the size, and it's quarter of the volume, and it's a really good practice, really. So you can see the palm is a bit thick for this length of fingers. If you're very careful, you can elongate the fingers just a little bit by lightly squeezing and pulling. Doing a relaxed pose is generally a good thing for any hands, even in 3D modeling. It never, I mean, some people swear by T-pose, straight hands, but it's not the way to go. Always looks better when the hand is slightly relaxed because that's its main position. And if you ever try to animate or rig or bend a hand that's super rigid and straight, it just doesn't deform properly. So if you get it already halfway there, it is much easier to make it feel real. And I'm not the first person to figure that out. There's a lot of people who do that. I think Half-Life 2 was maybe one of the first ones to do it in like a game production where their characters were all done in A pose instead of T, and all their hands were nicely relaxed. It was really neat to see that in production models. So hats off to those guys, whoever figured that out. So I'm just letting the back of the tool kind of roll, and lightly letting the spoon shape sort of be the in-between for the knuckles. We're getting right to 10 minutes now, so yeah, I think you get the idea. You know, take it as far as you can. You could easily spend half an hour on this. I'm just trying to make these quick 10-minute things as often as I can to have something quick and easy for people to watch. So there you go. 10-minute hand. So nice and relaxed. Okay, I don't know what that means, but good luck to you, and I wish you all well. Please feel free to comment and show me what you guys do. I always like to see what students come up with. I mean, this isn't officially a class or anything, but I am sharing a lot of stuff from classes that I've taught. You can do that pull between the thumb and index depending on which side you pull it on. Just you start to get into each little detail. Just look at your hand, look at other hands, try to match specific features, and work on your observation. Okay, and then if you find that your fingers are too far apart, you can always do this. And then the next level of this is to try to pose it and see you know, how realistically you can make it into a fist, and look at all the aspects of your fist, or grabbing a tool and seeing how it wraps around another object. There's always things you notice when you start to look at the reference and doing that. So you notice how the curves start to rubber hose. That's why I keep pressing between the knuckles like that. Make it a little flatter between each digit segment. So that's what helps. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching.